rules from the Broadcasting Commission of Ireland kick in, where there has to be balance maintained between the various competing parties, be it in a general election or a presidential election. So it behoves me to say that all the other presidential candidates smell absolutely wonderful as well. Fatty Arbuckle was a legendary comedian of the silent era, first for his screen roles and then for a scandal which destroyed his career. This year is the 90th anniversary of the alleged incident which ruined him. And on the line is Stuart Oderman, author of Roscoe, Fatty Arbuckle, a biography of the silent film comedian. Good afternoon, Stuart.
Good afternoon, and thank you very, very much for calling me.
And thanks very much for taking our call. First, could you give us an idea of just how big Fatty Arbuckle was? I mean, in career terms, not in physical terms.
Oh, in career terms, he was second to Charlie Chaplin in popularity. He was very popular with little children because of his size, because you never had a fat man as a comedian, but he was a fat man who was very agile, and he could roll under buses, and he was very graceful on his feet. Louise Brooks, who knew Fatty Arbuckle, would go dancing with him, and she said he was like dancing with a donut. She said he was a dancer first, and he was a singer, and I think the visual appeal of Fatty Arbuckle in vaudeville was because he was fat and he was graceful.
And he was,
yes.
And he was very highly paid.
He was the first movie star in America to receive a contract of $1 million a year, and this was signed in 1920. It was a 3-year contract, tax-free. And then he went and ruined it, and Adela Rogers St. John said, Arbuckle was a triumph of small education and big income. He just never knew what to do with the money.
Now, the night in this hotel room,
yes.
the Westin St. Francis Hotel, Virginia Rapp, what happened that night?
Virginia Rapp, yes, it was at the St. Francis Hotel in rooms 1219, 1220, and 1221. Because when I was researching the book, I asked one of the chambermaids if I could go into the rooms and see exactly what happened. He had signed this contract, and he had gone from Los Angeles to San Francisco in a $25,000 Pierce Arrow, and it was over Labor Day weekend, 1921, and he went there with 3 of his friends, and the idea was San Francisco was Hollywood's playground, and the people in San Francisco were tired of San Francisco being used as Hollywood's playground. In the movie magazines of the day, they would say, oh, the movie star went to Tijuana for a vacation. Well, Tijuana was an abortion mill, and the people in the business knew that was the reason why they went there. They weren't particularly fond of Mexico, but it was done. And then San Francisco was, you went there to play. This was the playground. And there was a big rivalry between L.A. and Los Angeles and San Francisco. You went to San Francisco several hundred miles away, and nobody would know about it.
Yes, and unless, of course, you were Fatty Arbuckle. Now, on the night in question, Virginia Rapp was found in room 1219.
That's right.
Screaming in agony, and she claimed what had happened.
That he did it, and it wasn't true. Virginia Rapp had abortion number 4, and she claimed that Arbuckle had done this, and
when you say done this, that he'd raped her or he'd performed an abortion?
He had raped her.
Yes.
But it was not true because Arbuckle most of the time was impotent. He couldn't do anything. And it was the case that Minta Arbuckle, who was his wife, said Arbuckle was incapable of any kind of sexual proclivity, that he had just signed $1 million contract, and all these beautiful women, Senate bathing beauties who were after him because of his power. A word from Arbuckle could get you a Hollywood contract. And if you look at Arbuckle, he was a plain fat slob, very funny man, but he knew that these voluptuous women were not after him, and he was also a very big drunk. Also,
there was no sign of sexual assault when she was examined.
No, there was no sign whatsoever of sexual assault, but it was a case of they were tired of Hollywood going to San Francisco to use as a playground. There was a district attorney named Brady who wanted to run for mayor, and the best way he could run for mayor was to convict or run a series of conviction attempts against Fatty Arbuckle to get Hollywood out of San Francisco, and he was the scapegoat.
And I suppose what added flames to that was that Virginia Rapé died the next day.
Yes, she died the next day. She died at a place called the Wakefield Sanatorium, which was an abortion mill around the corner from the St. Francis Hotel. Virginia had several abortions, and that's where they would take her to get these abortions done.
And so
that's where they took her after this assignation.
There were 3 separate attempts to prosecute Arbuckle.
Yes, and you had hung juries every time, and there was no evidence of everything was circumstantial, and they were just tired of it. And you had several cases where Chaplin got off on his attempted assignations and everything else, and they said, "Here's Fatty Arbuckle," and there was the image of the fat man and the innocent little girl.
After the third attempt failed,
yes.
And Arbuckle assumed he was in the clear.
Yes.
Presumably he tried to restart his career again.
Yes, he did try to restart his career. He had just made some silent films, and then unfortunately this case came up. He did not work for a while. He did a vaudeville tour, and on one of the vaudeville tours, a man who championed him was Bob Hope, comedian Bob Hope, who championed him. And Arbuckle went to New York. He did a Broadway play, short-lived, with a comedian, a serious actor named Humphrey Bogart.
Huh.
And then he also went back as a director. He was hired in Hollywood as a director, and the name he took was Will, W-I-L-L-B period, Good, G-O-O-D. So he was able to get work as a director, which he did very well. He directing Buster Keaton, but he could not get work as Roscoe Arbuckle because his crime was still against him.
And so there was a widespread belief, was there, that he was guilty of it?
Yes. Well, in America at that time, the accusation was worse than the crime. It was a sort of, do you still beat your wife? And the answer was not anymore. But the fact that he was that heavy, they just were tired of the Hollywood morality coming up to San Francisco to rid Hollywood of this. And the words that Arbuckle has said to Virginia as a chambermaid testified, "I've been waiting to get you for 5 years," because Virginia Rapé was the sort of scrubber, if I could say that word, of the studios. And anytime you wanted to have a hot time, you went to Virginia. And the vaudevillians of the day, you had the popular song "Carry Me Back to Old Virginia," which was a Civil War song, and they said that was Arbuckle's theme song anytime he went anywhere.
I see, right.
So it was not, it was politically incorrect, but in those days nobody cared about being politically incorrect. They just wanted to sell papers, and the Hearst papers came out 5 times a day instead of the usual 3.
Wow. So it would be fair to say Virginia was a tidy little performer then?
Oh, she was very well liked. And as they would say about her, every man loved Virginia given the chance.
Thank you very much for talking to us today. That was Stuart Oderman there. He's the author of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a biography of the silent film comedian. We're going to take a break after that. Some good things to do tonight.
Moncrief.
Thanks to Dumbdeal.ie, Ireland's largest classified ads website.
NEWSTALK 106 to 108. It can seem daunting launching a startup business, but at AIB, going it alone doesn't have to mean doing it alone. With our new AIB